Rhonda, is there any additions to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do have an item that was identified after the preparation of the agenda for which there is need to take immediate action. Two-thirds votes are required for consideration. The item identified after the preparation of the agenda is from the Office of the Sheriff, a declaration proclaiming the existence of a local emergency.
Very good.
Okay, I move that we take up this item and find that the need to take the action on it arose after the posting of the agenda.
Second. We have first and second. Roll call.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 3-0, 1 absent, 1 away.
Okay. Where's Fred at?
I don't know. He may be in the restroom.
County Council, will you read the items to be discussed in closed session?
Yes, Chairman. There are several items for today's closed session, the first being conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The county negotiators are Adrian Caleb and Ken Caves. The employee organization is all units. Under the same Government Code section, the county negotiator is Eric Fleming, and the unrepresented employees are the chiefs of staff. There's a conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is assessor's parcel number 061022002 and 061065001. The county negotiator is Eric Fleming. He's the county administrative officer, and the negotiating party is Pacific Gas and Electric Company. Under negotiations is the terms of a deed and easement and a transaction agreement. There's existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D1. The litigation names are Dunn Dimitri versus the County of Madera, MCV 072137, Madera County Farm Bureau versus the County of Madera, MCV 068218, and Baker versus the County of Madera Sheriff's Department, case number 16 CEC G00062. The last existing litigation is Madera Oversight Coalition versus the County of Madera, MCV 073003. There's anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D2. There are two cases, and one of those we found out this morning can be tagged as existing litigation, Jones versus the County of Madera. An appeal has been filed. It's CV01725 ALJO. And the last item is performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, and the title of the position is Veterans Services Officer.
Is there any public comment on the closed session items? There's none. Shall we go into closed session? County Council, do we have anything to report?
Chairman, there are no items to report from closed session.
Okay, invocation will be performed by Tim McGraw, Yosemite Community Church, and Pledge of Allegiance by our supervisor, Brett Frazier.
So, Lord, I just thank you this morning for your blessing and your smile upon our city and our county. And in light of all the issues on the agenda and in this day and in immediate days, I would ask that you would just bless our supervisors with wisdom, and that decisions that are made would reflect wisdom, justice, hope for all of our citizens, all of our residents of Madera County. We thank you for your goodness, and we thank you for your smile upon us. Be with us today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Will you please join me in saluting our flag? Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say something there. We'll open and close in memory of Mr. Wheeler.
Yeah, two of them, Gary Hemling and a good friend. And the other one is my niece, my brother's daughter, passed away Saturday night, only 44 years old, and she had a brain tumor, and she got it when she was about 22 years old. She worked for the post office like my brother did, and one day she turned over a mail truck, and they thought she was on drugs and everything else, which I knew she wasn't. And so they started doing tests, and she had a tumor right in the middle of her brain. So she's lived in misery for just a little over 20 years, and she's been doing really good. So funny, I called Sunday night, I'm sorry. I called Saturday night just to see how she was doing. I called a little late because she goes to bed at 8, and it was a little late, and she was already in bed, but then she passed away the next night. So she was such a great girl. Thank you, guys.
Sorry, Tom. You know, also this morning I received word that Bart Chakwa, a local farmer, passed away this morning. He was a fireman. That was his career for many, many years, and retired. And he'd been a little bit ill, but he passed away this morning. God bless him. Yes. Yeah.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any handouts to the board must be submitted to the chief clerk of the board for distribution to the supervisors. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium. Also, all persons addressing the board may state their name and county of residence for the record.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ignacio Magos, 21784, Road 19 and a half, Chowchilla, California, better known as Fairmeet, California, to us people that live out there. Real quick, I just want to say a thank you to the board. I was given an opportunity 8.5 years ago, and that opportunity is still thriving for me and my wife. My wife's sitting back in the back, and we just got some good news that it'll continue. And like a famous actor once said in a movie about a guy that jumped out of a 10-story building And as the guy fell, the people as he dropped the floors, the people heard him say, "So far, so good." And for us, it's so far, so good also. Okay. But what I'm really here this morning for is I am part of the Courthouse Park Restoration Committee, and along with Bob Winslow and Mr. Portress, and I can't remember a lot of the other members' names, Tom Kidwell and so forth, we have undergone possibly a project that we hope that the board will kind of put its stamp on for us. We see how the Courthouse Park right now is kind of blah. A lot of the trees were taken out because of disease, because they fell, whatever. And even though the county has restored some of these trees with what I call 5-gallon trees that people walk along, basically a twig, and the people walk along and break them. We have a project that in the future here, we're going to try to bring back more information to you in that we want to bring in 36-gallon trees, big trees that come in a box. And the first thing you guys might be thinking is, well, we don't have that kind of money. We're not asking you for money. We're asking for your blessing. We want to try to reach out to the community to get the community to donate trees on behalf of family members, as like Mr. Wheeler's niece that passed away, so forth. And we'll put a plaque in front of these trees like we did the lights out there. And I know right now I have 3 trees already sold. One by my family alone, one by a cousin of mine that lives down in San Bernardino, and one by Mr. Portress himself already.
And I'll buy one.
And we're looking, and that's 4, and we're looking to hopefully put about 8 to 12 out there. And having worked with a park, I know that we can put 8 to 12 of these trees out there. We're looking to use a tree called a Raywood ash. Beautiful green tree, stays green all year long, drops very little leaves. So I just wanted to mention that this morning. Like I say, we will be back, along with Bob, along with Tom Kidwell, Mr. Fortress, whoever else. I don't know if Bob wants to make any comments on this or not.
No, I just kind of would echo what Ignacio said, that and it was, of course, his idea to bring up this idea of getting some larger trees that are a little bit more mature, starting, I think, about, what did you say, about 20 feet high or so to start with. So we've got some trees that look pretty good from the day that they get planted. And as Ignacio said, we would raise these funds or through donations through the Courthouse Park Restoration Committee, so it wouldn't be any cost to the county at all to do that. So.
Except the maintenance.
Ignacio, thank you very much, and work with Maria on that. And give me a figure as far as what do those trees cost?
Well, right now we got a price from a local vendor, and of course we're going to reach out and try to get the price a little cheaper for people that are going to buy it. But right now we're using a $500 a tree figure. I did already reach out to Maria, and her first comment was, Eric's not going to mind it as long as we don't have to pay for it. So,
low blow.
Anyway.
Mr. Wheeler? Yeah, and also, are you going to use one of those guys that comes in with the big thing?
Yes, we are.
Have you know somebody that does that?
I have a company that I worked with. We actually put one tree one time with one of those machines.
Okay. I've got a guy that does that too.
Okay,
that's doing work for us.
We can look at that. I mean, we'll look and see what we can do, what's cheapest and best for all of us.
Yeah, and he's done a lot of work. We've had him do a lot of work up there. What he does is bring fruit trees up to the ranch, and then we sell him. I mean, we traded live oaks, and he brought them down.
I'll be talking to you.
So talk to me.
Ignacio will, maybe in the future, but maybe a plaque in the name of the person?
Yes.
In memory of?
Yes, we are.
That'd be great.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Bob.
Myself, my wife, again, I say thank you, guys.
Okay, I got a public comment. A couple of things. The first one is Regina's husband passed away a while back, and they had in Fresno B on August 27th at Central High School. They made a big plaque for her husband Justin, and it was in Fresno B, a picture of her 2 beautiful kids and the thing. So I just I think it was really great, and I didn't see you in here, and I was wondering, what the heck, they put you behind that or something? Or
I was right there giving my kids the spotlight and taking in the moment. Thank you for mentioning that, Supervisor Wheeler.
I thought it was very beautiful.
It was.
And the second thing is, if Maria and Letty would stand up. Stand up. Hi. No, not yet. 10 years ago, Max and I went through 48 applicants for those two jobs. So this is their 10th year anniversary that we hired them. And I just want to give you girls a great big hand for the great job you've done for Madera County.
And I could say the same thing for Letty over there. She's been great. She knows everybody. She's done a good job. We're very proud of her. Thank you, Letty. Maria?
And then the next thing is, I've got a plaque here for some more of our leadership that we have in our county, that people go beyond what they do and can't do and what have you. The County of Madera Board of Supervisors commendation for bravery and under extreme duress. Because of her leadership and intellect and physical efforts, she helped save the lives of over 50 people and animals. The Board of Supervisors of Madera County hereby thank Brittany Dyer for her courageous acts on behalf of all the residents of Madera County. And Jay Varney, too. When the Mission Fire started Sunday, I was home and actually trying to pay some bills, but that ended real quick. And I got a call from Nancy Cooperneck from the Cal Fire telling me there was about the railroad fire, actually. And while she was doing it, I got my text, I get the notices from any of these things that happened. And they said there's one in North Fork on 225 and Rainbow Drive, which is about 2 miles from my house. So while I was talking to Nancy, I walked out and there was a little bit of puff of smoke, and the winds were blowing northeasterly. I got a weather station, and I went over and told Nancy that it's blowing about 7 miles an hour, and so so I was on the phone with about 20 minutes, and it was just going. The wind was blowing like a sucker, and it was heading up to up to Cascadel Heights, and it's just lucky probably that they had all those dead trees taken out, because it would probably been a lot worse than it was. Only one house got burnt down there, but 2 others got burned. But anyway, her and I were talking back and forth, and I said, you better get some helicopters and planes here quick. I mean, because nothing was there, and it was just going. And then I hung up her, I called Jay, and we texted each other, I guess, what we was doing. And right, yeah, I don't know how he did it, but we were on the phone for over an hour, and meanwhile, on texting, and I get the call from Brittany, and they're trapped inside the valley in Cascadel up there, and you just don't know how helpless that is when you can't. I'm only 4 or 5 miles from there, and I can't even do nothing but just pray, I guess. And so Jay and I was back and forth, and he said that one of the sheriffs got in there. Actually, it's really good. Jake Talman he was raised there in North Fork, so that helped too. And I kept texting her, trying to get her the thing, but I couldn't get her. And then Rocky Deal, McClintock's chief of staff, called me and said, hey, we heard there's some people trapped in there and stuff, and what can we do? And I said, just get us help. And this all happened like in 30 minutes. And I'm trying to relive this. It's not easy, but that big 747 came. They had 4 or 5 big planes and 5 helicopters. And I was taking pictures, talking to everybody. It was just crazy. But then finally Jay got a hold of me and said they all got out. So anyway, and then when she called me, she said, there was a bunch of elderly people over there too, and kids. And none of them knew what to do. And luckily she's outdoor lady. I don't know how lucky we get as supervisors. We get such great help that we get to help us, boy, but we really do. And she was saying that some of them were wanting to walk out of there, and I said, do not leave. You're right there by the creek. Whiskey Creek runs through it, and I've been all over that, so I know exactly where it is. I said, if it gets too bad, go get in the creek. Do not try to outrun it. You'll never outrun a fire. And tell those people, just get in the creek and hold your head up against out of the water. And but anyway, some of them were so excited. Some lady ran over one of the guys, a 70-year-old guy. I'm 75, so what the hell does that mean? Broke his foot and everything else. But anyway, they all got out, and we all just can't thank you enough. Jay, your sheriff's CAL FIRE. It's a spooky thing when it happens to you. You don't even know until this happens to you what it is. There's been a lot of these fires. Gary's back here, ex-supervisor, ex-CAL FIRE guy, and we've been on a lot of fires together even. So, thank you. I don't know if anybody else can say anything, but I'll get a picture.
Everyone can sit down now. I know we've stood up for a long time. But when I heard that Brittany was trapped in there, I was scared for Brittany as not only is she a member of this team, but she's a friend. She's somebody that we all care about and know, and it puts that human aspect to it that isn't always there in the fires. You always pray for the people that are affected by it, but until you know somebody, it's really hard to understand that. And when I knew that Brittany was in there with the other 50 people, I knew those 50 people were better off having her in there because if anybody can keep their calm and lead people in a direction to get them out and be safe, it's Brittany. And so I'm so happy that you're safe and that you were there. I knew when I found out that you were one of the ones trapped, it was because you were helping others to get out first. And so thank you on behalf of the county and me personally.
It's CAL FIRE and Sheriff, so these guys are going to be...
Matt, you want to come up?
Please, Matt. They're fire. They're fire. No, we need to stay up. I just can't thank us for the cooperative relationships that we have up there. I mean, it was CAL FIRE and Sheriff and Rocky, everybody that came together. I've never seen your support like that. The leadership that that your team was able to provide during that. I mean, out of 50 people, there's at least 35 people that aren't trained for that sort of situation and that are pretty much no use, right? And they're just trying to keep them calm. And the team that you guys had up there, and the communication that we had with CAL FIRE, I mean, it literally saved lives. So I'm happy to be part of it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had to. Thanks.
Chairman.
Regina.
Yep. I have something to share with the board. When we added something as a subsequent need item, it requires 2/3 vote, and for a 5-member body, that is 4 out of 5 members. And this board took action earlier to add the declaration declaring an emergency. One member was absent and one was coming into the door. So procedurally, to add that to the agenda, We can have a special board meeting tomorrow that requires 24-hour Brown Act notice, or we can I could suggest a motion to reconsider that previous, right, and
I make a motion
Yeah, go ahead.
to reconsider my motion.
Second?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, one absent.
Okay, now I'll move to redo it with all four of us, and I move that we take up this item, find that the need to take action on it arose after the posting of the agenda.
Second?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, one absent.
thank you.
And thank you, Jay, very much for declaring that. I think that Madera County is in deep doo-doo right now, so.
Chairman,
Thank
we
you so
can
much.
take that item up now if you want to let Jay.
Okay, yeah, why don't we have him just do it?
Did we close public comment?
Okay.
Rhonda, shall we close public comment?
Yes, sir. This public comment is closed.
I'm going to wait until Rhonda gives all of you a copy of it, since we
Turned on.
killed some trees by printing it. I figured you'd want to be able to see that. So, obviously, with the events that we just talked about, combined with the railroad fire, which started earlier in the week, we've determined that it would be appropriate to, through the OES office, to declare a proclamation of local emergency. There are other opportunities to recover some of our invested time in the railroad fire, for sure. There is an FMAG there, and Battalion Chief Watson advises me there's a FMAG, which is a Fire Management Assistant Grant, also for the Mission Fire. So we will recover some of our costs there, but in terms of the ongoing nature and damage that the fire may continue to occur both in North Fork and throughout the area north of Oakhurst. There's actually a third fire up that way. I don't think they've named it. I think they're including it as a spot fire from the railroad fire. But if you looked at the map, it would be very difficult for it to spot that far away. So we do have a number of folks still on mandatory evacuation. We do have structures that have been damaged at both fires. We do have a little bit of roadway damage from unloading dozers and doing some things like that. So we felt that the best thing to do, Sunday night we actually printed this at the Incident Command Post and wanted to take advantage of getting it in front of the board today.
And Chairman, I would suggest that the motion be to ratify and approve the declaration proclaiming the existence of a local emergency, which was passed out to you here and available to the public.
I move it exactly what you said.
Second?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
We need to have
Yes.
public.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Any public
comment?
No,
Any
public
public
comment.
No, any public
No,
comment?
no, hold on. Are you done?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
that
public
ends my
comment?
presentation.
This issue? And now we'll bring it back to the board for action.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yep.
Supervisor
I think you had the second.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, one absent.
And just for the clerk, I'll probably have to get a copy of the completely executed version at some point so I can send it to OES.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Jay, and thank you and Cal Fire for all you guys have been doing this week, because there wasn't much of a weekend for most of them people, so.
What can we do from the flatlands? How can we help the firefighters and the sheriffs and the people?
Come back.
So as of yesterday evening, at both fires, they'd been making some pretty significant progress as far as what people of the flatland can do. At this point, there's not need for additional shelter. There isn't need at this point for on-site things like water or food or any of that kind of stuff. Probably at some point, once things settle out, I guess what I would direct you to first would be to whatever local disaster partners we have, like Red Cross or anyone who's helping these folks rebuild, certainly with all the discussions we've had about fire insurance over the years, if individuals wanted to assist people whose homes that burned, certainly make sure that whoever they're donating the money to is going to make sure that money actually gets to the folks in need and not to someone else's pocket. But we've canceled almost all days off on our side of things. We do have quite a bit of mutual aid going, and I'm sure that was kind of an adventure for some of those folks from Fresno PD and some of those places that may not get out in the force very much, but they've been super in helping us, and we basically have all of the staffing planned through this coming Saturday. So right now we're good. If they have a problem, at least for us, if they could wait till next week to call us about. I'm not saying don't call us, and I'm not saying don't call 911 for an emergency. But if you have something that you just want to talk to us about or that you want to try to work out, it might be good for us if you could wait until next week to contact us. But there's very few circumstances that are like that. Most of them are emergencies, and we're still responding in a timely fashion to everything countywide.
Sheriff, I have a question for you. I read, information I get is from the newspaper, but that the National Guard, the California National Guard, has been called out to be available in case they need it in these fires. Do you know anything about it?
I don't know anything about that in particular, Mr. Supervisor. My guess would be that, certainly you're using some of their aircraft for your airdrops. So the C-130s are coming out of Fresno. I think those are coming from, some are from the Guard and some are dedicated fire protection planes. They're probably mobilizing those folks for hand crews because there's so many fires statewide right now. When you first go to the CAL FIRE website and it pulls up the state, literally the entire state is covered by fires until you zoom in a little bit and the icons get smaller. So I know that in terms of some of the areas, especially for the railroad fire and now where the Mission fire is burning into, very difficult to get to, so you're going to have to fight that with hand crews making hand lines. You're not going to get a bulldozer in there. So I can definitely see that they're using some folks like that. They're also, in yesterday's report, there were some folks from the railroad fire who were referred to as trainees. So I don't know if those were fire camp trainees, National Guard folks, or someone from a third party.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jake.
Consent calendar?
I got one question.
Supervisor Wheeler,
Yeah,
you have the mic.
all of them are pretty good, except item Q, the water. I think that's, I forgot what number it was. MD 43. I just wanted to thank everyone, the State Water Board, our staff, and you name it, for getting them clean water now and good water. And we got a big ball thrown in front of a roadblock, I should say, a couple months ago from a guy, Mr. Troost, that stopped almost all these projects going for our water projects in Madera County, because he don't think the way we're doing it is a good way to doing it, and it's costing these people lots of money, and they're still got to keep drinking bad water because of his, I'm not going to say how bad it is, but anyway, I just want to thank our staff and the Water Board for what you guys have done to get some of these going. And this is not an easy thing to be doing. It takes years, and we've got 42 of these districts we're trying to clean up, and I think there's probably at least half of them that's in bad shape, and it's just nice to see one of them is completely done. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second. Public comment.
Let's ask the public for any comments on this item. If not, we'll take that motion.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, 1 absent.
Okay.
10 o'clock hearing, Sheriff Coroner's Department. Hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance to amend Title IX of Madera County Code pertaining to massage establishments and therapists and adopt a resolution for the establishment of fees.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this is the second reading for an amendment to the county ordinance, as it would be adding Chapter 9.12, specifically deals with massage establishments. It would establish legitimate and appropriate rules for managing both those establishments that are legitimate and allowing us to police and enforce state guidelines and our own local ordinance against those that are not legitimate. I'm sorry I was not here for your first reading. I was out of state, so I'm available to answer any questions that you have in relation to this ordinance.
I got a question.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah. Do you know, are they licensed now, Matt, or anybody can answer?
No, what they have is they have the regular business license, but that's the only thing that we require. Most counties and almost every municipal location is implementing you have the California Massage Therapy Council that's designed to keep things legitimate and to keep the illegitimate stuff out. And what one of the major prongs of this particular ordinance is to allow us to basically do like environmental health or like code does on any kind of business. There's certain rules that every kind of business should follow in their particular vein. And right now we have nothing that allows us to force these folks to be a legitimate massage ordinance, or excuse me, a legitimate massage provider. So in terms of are the people licensed, I can guarantee you the ones that have popped up since January, they're not licensed to do anything other than they did come in and get a legitimate business license from the third floor.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is important. I appreciate your office taking it over, too. I think it's important that when someone's going in, if there's some kind of illegal activity going in, that the person that's regulating it has a badge and a gun to help stop that immediately. So I thank you for taking it under your auspices. These are massage parlors are not bad. It's when you have these illegitimate ones that create this seedy feeling. And if I need a massage, I want to know that it's regulated. And I walk in, I don't feel like I should worry about anybody seeing me walking out, right? And by creating some kind of legitimacy.
Right, you don't want to have to walk out at night with a...
Right, you walk out backwards. So I thank you for taking this over. I think it's, a lot of them started popping up as they got pushed out of Fresno and the other areas, so we need to just, cut it off before it becomes a problem, and thank you for stepping up.
Yeah, Supervisor Frazier, you're exactly right about where they're being pushed out from. We have talked with and worked with Fresno PD, but they're going to continue to be as aggressive as they can, which means that these people, it's kind of like water, it will go where it can flow, and if they can come up here, they will. Myself and Matt would also like to be able to come back to you sometime probably in the January time period. One of the things we discovered when we were investigating this is that the county does not have any kind of ordinance, the overarching ordinance to regulate any kind of adult-oriented business, which would be those kind of businesses that fall in line with the illegitimate massage places. So I guess just as a point of information, we will be doing some research and drawing up something that's appropriate for the county and for economic growth, but that protects our families and protects the existing businesses in our county. So.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I would also like to commend you on this, and I know that a lot of these illegitimate businesses are a front for human trafficking, and that's a sad reality as well. A lot of people trapped in this type of existence, and most of them underage and young, and or even illegal aliens that have been brought over here and what have you. RCRC's done a lot of research on this, and they've brought this to our attention. And so I really appreciate your leadership in this area. We haven't had this seeming problem in our region. When you drive through other areas, you see them just everywhere, and but they're starting to pop up, and it's a concern. So I do appreciate your leadership on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public on this matter? None at all?
I move we approve.
Second?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, one absent. Number 7A, Board of Supervisors Department, District Number 1, presentation of a proclamation recognizing September 2017 as California Rail Safety Month. Whereas California Operation Lifesaver, the state rail safety education nonprofit, is working in partnership with the National Operation Lifesaver, U.S. Department of Transportation, Amtrak, San Joaquin's, Amtrak, other rail providers, and local organizations to observe the month of September as California Rail Safety Month and the first National Rail Safety Week, September 24th through the 30th, 2017. And whereas the County of Madera recognizes a significant public safety threat near rail crossings posed to the population of our county, and the County of Madera has endured multiple loss of life, and that about every 3 hours in the U.S. a person or vehicle is hit by a train. And whereas the County of Madera and its residents are familiar with local threats and hazards, and its residents need to also recognize the importance of keeping themselves safe near highway, rail, grade crossings, and railroad rights-of-way. And whereas California Rail Safety Month will be held during the month of September 2017, and local, state, and federal agencies will work together to raise awareness across the United States of the need for rail safety education and empower the general public to eliminate, through education, enforcement, and engineering, collisions at grade crossings on privately owned railroad property. And whereas the theme for California Rail Safety Month and the U.S. Rail Safety Week 2017 is See Tracks, Think Train, with an emphasis on pedestrians and motorists. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Madera, State of California, does hereby proclaim the month of September 2017 as California Rail Safety Month and the week of September 24th through the 30th as National Rail Safety Week.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is very important. I mean, we just had someone killed just this past year trying to get over just that rail crossing it was a private rail crossing. You're not going to beat the train. You're not going to, I remember watching a friend, I was behind them trying to get through the deals, and one of the arms came down in high school, snapped his mirror off, cut him all up. He was just lucky he got past the train, but I think it's important that we make sure that people know, just stop and wait for it. It's not going to take that much time out of your day.
Compared to your life.
And if if you're waiting like on Cleveland over here, just wait on the other side of it. You don't need to get to that light and put your tail end on the other side of it. Never park on tracks. And so I just think we have a lot of places where people can cross back and forth, and there's safe places to cross, and anything we can do to raise awareness is important. And I want to thank Steve Walker, who's here from the California Operation Lifesaver, to accept this proclamation from us. Okay. Steve, did you want to say anything?
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of California Operation Lifesaver, we would just really appreciate the support. With this board, we're getting proclamations from up and down the state of California each year. We're getting more and more. Every 3 hours, something happens where a vehicle collides with a trespasser or a vehicle, and my colleague notified me here about 15 minutes ago we had another one in Fresno. So it's very important, and we can't do it without the support of the municipalities and the cities the railroads travel through. So again, on behalf of California Operation Lifesaver, we thank you.
Good.
Just sit there, walk on your own, yeah.
7B, Board of Supervisors Department, consideration of approval to proclaim the week of September 17 through September 23, 2017 as Old Timers Week in Madera County. Whereas 2017 marks the 86th anniversary of Old Timers Week celebrations in Madera County, and whereas during Old Timers Week, citizens are encouraged to dress up in costumes which reflect the history of Madera County during the week beginning September 17th through September 23rd, 2017. And whereas Madera County, on behalf of county employees, has challenged Madera City employees to a historical costume contest during the week beginning September 17th, with judging set for Thursday, September 21st, 2017. Now therefore, the Board of Supervisors of the County of Madera, State of California, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17, 2017 through September 23, 2017 as Old Timers Week, and encourage Madera County employees to participate in the costume contest on said dates, as well as other activities scheduled in celebration of Old Timers Week.
Mr. Bob.
Let's go down.
Good morning, board and other members. And Eric, how are you? Pretty good. I knew I was in trouble. Tracy Kennedy just left. I forgot to get dressed up. She said, "Where's your tie?" I knew I was in trouble. But I was at a meeting earlier with or at the fair for Pomegranate Festival coming up. So I don't even have my cowboy hat to look like I'm out of Old West, but here I am, and we got it going again. So I appreciate all the help from everyone here on the board, and we'll do the costume contest and the whole works like we've done before.
You know, just to add, this man does so much. How many years now have you been serving on this Old Timers Parade committee? Yeah, and you're retired, and you don't give up. Okay. Come on, guys. Try.
Challenge the city again. Thank you so much. Always appreciate it. Thank you.
7C, Community and Economic Development Department, Planning Division. Discussion and consideration of approval of the request for fee waiver by the Eastern Madera County Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to waive the necessary fees for permits.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, your planning director here, and I also have Joey Din, who's a planner too with the county. This item, very similar to a number of the ones we've had before this body. And the SPCA is requesting a fee waiver for their building permit and development of the property. The board did grant a waiver of their entitlement fees, their conditional use permit fees for the project back in August 7th of 2012. The item before you would be to grant the actual building permit and impact fees for this project. The one thing I would call out in a difference from this project to some recent ones, you see the dollar figure being very high. That is because the impact fees, as your board is fully aware, has gone back to full impact fees as of June 21st of this year. So the previous projects had not had that impact fee assessed at the time they were brought forth. So findings that the board has to be made are there, and we're available for any questions the board may have.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yeah, with the work that they're doing, what kind of benefit is that to us in terms of our animal control efforts? Is there savings there?
That's a very good question, Supervisor Frazier. Yeah, there's a huge benefit for Eastern Madera County. The work that they do there, they help adopt out a lot of animals that I think we would end up with down here in our facility, and it would really be a financial impact on us if they weren't doing what they were doing in Eastern Madera County.
So it's pretty easy to show that we're getting more back than what we're probably waiving here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's big time, Brett. Also, it's on our property. You know, we leased them that property 6-7 years ago for $1 a year. For I think it's 20 years with 5-year renewals or something like that. And this is so important. I mean, they have worked their tails off, and they have asked no money for us except for this. If they had to pay the $61,429, just think of how many animals that could benefit. All of us. So it bottom line, it saves the county lots of money.
Yeah, and just bringing those dogs and cats for that $61,000 would probably cost us $300,000 just to bring them down here and house them.
Any comment from the public?
I move we approve the...
Bring it back to the board.
Second.
To waive all the fees of $61,429.92.
Second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, one absent.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, staff.
7D, County Administration Department. Discussion and consideration regarding logo variations for county fleet vehicles and provide direction to staff for the placement of the logo.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Eric Fleming, County Administrator. We've got 2 identical vehicles set up out front, and we have 2 variations of our new logo. I know that your board had an interest in seeing what the horizontal version looked like, and so we have kind of the classic circular one and horizontal. We'll need to break the meeting and go out and take a look, and then we'll need to come back in and reconvene the meeting before you have your discussion and talk about which one you might like.
Okay. Vegeta?
And Chairman, members of the board, just a reminder to the supervisors to hold off any discussions or recommendations until we come back from the break into these chambers.
Okay.
5 minutes.
We can't twist arms out there?
Let's take a short break. Whoopie, whoopie, whoopie.
Tom Wheeler. Eric Fleming. I was just saying your name. You didn't have to come back in.
Okay.
Continuing on with 7D, discussion and consideration regarding logo variations for county fleet vehicles, and provide direction to staff for the placement of the logo.
Supervisor Frazier?
I like the rounded one. I also took pictures of those in the morning and sent them to everybody that matters their opinion, my wife, my mom, and my mother-in-law, and my chief of staff. Everyone chose the circle one they liked. My mom said that it was more all-encompassing, and so I listen to them. They know what they're talking about, and I just think we need some yellow in the 311 logo. Just kidding.
No, it should.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, I'm just opposite. all my people said the straight line so you can read it when you drive by. You can't read the circle. You absolutely can't read that. So I like the straight one.
Supervisor Rogers?
I have nothing to say.
Huh?
No, nothing to say.
No comment?
No comment.
Okay. I kind of favor the circle also.
Yeah. Whatever you guys want is fine with me.
I think there's some applications for the straight one. I think probably on a car where it's there's less space. I think that might work well, or even on the tailgates of a truck. But I don't know. I think I could read the circular one, and it's more. It's just the logo. That's what we have as our logo, so I don't want to get too far away from that.
Besides, our truck don't travel that fast that you can't read them.
Yeah.
They pass me.
And if it's code enforcement coming up, we don't want them to read it.
Public comments. Okay, we'll bring them back to the board.
I move that we do the circular one, and the placement was fine right there. I love the 311 also.
Okay. You have a second?
Second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
No.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 3-1, one absent.
We win.
You beat me, so that's the way it goes.
I was going to say,
Perfect.
Can your team read anyway, Tom?
7E, County Administration Department, General Services Division, Manzanita Lake Planning Unit. 1, discussion and direction to staff on the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit land acquisition. 2, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with the Pacific Forest and Watershed Lands Stewardship Council regarding the donation of $16,500 to the county for land surveying and mapping regarding the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit. 4, discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 17-009 and the amount of $16,500 derived from the contributions and donations to be appropriated to professional and specialized services. 4 votes required. 4, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Jones, Snyder & Associates in the amount of $15,000 for surveying and mapping services regarding the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit. 5, discussion and consideration of approval to adopt a resolution authorizing the preparation and submission of an application to the Pacific Forest Watershed Stewardship Council for an enhancement program grant for the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit land acquisition and authorizing the county administrative officer on behalf of the board to sign the application forms. 6, discussion and consideration of ratification of a license agreement for non-invasive investigation activities and confidential information exchange and non-disclosure agreement with Pacific Gas and Electric.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Maria Miranda with General Services. I'm here today with Bill Hayter, our county grant writer and project manager, as well as Sean Kirkpatrick, our senior analyst with admin, and also Steve and Aaron with the Stewardship Council are in the audience here to help answer any questions for us as well. Before you today is approval on a number of items related to the Manzanita Lake Planning Unit land acquisition from PG&E to the county. And to provide you with a bit of history and background, the county applied for the land donation back in 2011. The land's located in North Fork, a few miles from Bass Lake. In 2014, the county was recommended to receive approximately 200 or so acres by the Stewardship Council. The Stewardship Council was formed in 2004 as part of a PG&E settlement agreement with the California Public Utilities Commission. It's a private nonprofit that's tasked with conserving 140,000 acres of PG&E lands that were designated in a settlement agreement for beneficial public values. Those include things like natural habitat for fish, wildlife and plants, preservation of open space and outdoor recreation, and so forth. Stewardship Council is also tasked with donating lands to qualified organizations such as the county. Previously, the county looked at this particular site for a potential off-highway vehicle location. However, the site was found to not be suitable based on the archaeological and biological constraints found on the site. However, because we did look at it for OHV purposes, we were able to acquire grants for a number of studies for archaeological, biological, and geographical, giving us a lot of information on the site we are acquiring. The county is now instead looking to use the site for open space and recreational purposes, which is one of the Stewardship Council's beneficial public values. We are proposing site enhancements such as hiking and equestrian trails, public parking, campsites, bathrooms, and Native American heritage sites.
If you're looking at the map on the screen or in front of you, the yellow shaded area is the area that the county is looking at acquiring through the donation. The purple is the FERC boundaries for PG&E. And the rest of the properties that were originally offered up have been turned purple, so this is the only game in town at this point in time, and we're looking at approximately 200 acres. The request for the survey is to actually define the property boundaries, including the FERC areas. On the second map, the areas you see in brown, green, and red are the trails, campgrounds, equestrian facilities, and parking area. These areas are defined as building sites. It's not the exact location of the trail. The trails would fall within them. The green areas depicting the trails are actually 100 feet wide. Since we don't know what kind of features are out there from geology point of view as well as geographic. The main trail from Old Central Camp Road over to the red maintenance road would be ADA compliant. That's something that actually we're trying to allow a scenario where everybody has access. The sites are defined, again, as building sites by acreage. It does not define exactly where everything is going to go. And our staff recommendation to the board is this gets developed over time, not immediately. Maintenance cost being that we would look at what can we maintain today, what can we maintain 10, 20 years from now. The Mono tribe, we've been in discussions with them. The area below the trail that looks like a W on the east side, that whole area down there is significant to the tribe, and we would look at the county granting an easement to the tribe for the use and preservation of that property. There is also another site above the thumb in the upper right-hand corner that would be included in that as well.
The county had originally anticipated receiving grant funding from the Stewardship Council for ongoing maintenance of the property and master planning of the site. Unfortunately, these funds are no longer available to the county. However, costs for these items can be offset a number of ways. Staff is looking at fees charged to campers, the possibility of a caretaker on site similar to what we have at the Uwani Hills Regional Park, or partnerships with area organizations, and there are also other grant opportunities out there for these purposes. The Stewardship Council, however, does have an enhancement grant available, which would plan and construct specific enhancements. In our case, the trails, campsites, and so forth. But the grant is competitive, so funds aren't guaranteed, although we are hearing our chances are good. Approval to apply for the grant is one of the actions being requested today. And in addition to the site improvements, our grant request would also include funds for fuel reduction on the site. The Stewardship Council is also providing the county with grant funds in the amount of $16,500 for mapping and surveying of the property. An approval to accept these funds, as well as a contract with Jones, Snyder and Associates for the services, is also a request to your board today. The actual donation process is fairly complex and includes multiple partners. The county is one partner as the donee, PG&E as the donor. The Stewardship Council, who acts as the intermediary between the PG&E and the county, And then the Sierra Foothill Conservancy, who will manage the conservation easement in perpetuity, and we'll explain that in a little bit more detail shortly. The donation includes multiple transaction components, which includes the conservation easement, which will run with the property in perpetuity. It will require that the land remain open space and undeveloped outside of the development building sites that Bill mentioned. And we would just need to keep our development within our designated areas. The donation also includes a tax neutrality agreement. Since the property is now private going to public hands, we'll see a loss in tax revenue, so the Stewardship Council will be providing funding for that offset, which would then be shared with other taxing organizations. A baseline document report is also one of the components, which would include current specific biological and physical conditions of the property. It acts as a baseline so we know, so the Foothill Conservancy knows what's on the property as well as the county. And then the final documents would be executed with PG&E, which are the transaction agreement, environmental agreement, and grant deed. And we are currently negotiating these agreements with PG&E now. The land donation process is also quite lengthy. To date, the Stewardship Council has only recommended donation to the county, so we still need to have formal approval, which will require approval from their planning committee, public comment period, and then formal approval from their board in March 2018. We will then need to execute the transaction agreement with PG&E. By April 2018, we will then need CPUC approval in December 2018, and then finally close escrow in March of 2019. So in closing, since things have changed with the project since we first brought this to you back in 2011, and the funding for ongoing costs is no longer available, staff is seeking direction from your board on the donation. Should you decide to continue with the donation process, we are asking that you approve the agreement with the Stewardship Council for the $16,500 in grant funds for mapping and surveying, the agreement with Jones and Snyder for the mapping and surveying services, a resolution to submit the enhancement grant application to the Stewardship Council, and then ratification of a license agreement and non-disclosure, which we already signed with PG&E in order to give us access to the property in preparation of the enhancement grant application. Future approvals will include the conservation easement, grant deed, transaction agreement, environmental agreement, and tax neutrality agreement, which will happen after our negotiations conclude with PG&E and the Foothill Conservancy. And with that, we're available for questions.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, first thing, maybe the donation, I mean, the dollars that you guys pay for the property taxes, is that a lump sum you guys do, or is that paid by the yearly?
It's a lump sum.
It is a lump sum. Okay, I thought it was, but when I went over that, I was thinking, I don't think we've talked about that before, so, okay.
Mm-hmm. The lump sum is approximately 25 years' worth of taxes.
Taxes, okay.
And then the theory is that's enough ahead of time that then, if invested, it could equal continuing payments of those of that tax amount.
Yeah, and they are shared with the schools, the cities, and everything else, just like the rest of our property.
Exactly like it's normally distributed, right. Yes.
Supervisor Fraser?
Yes, I wanted to say I appreciate the upfront coordination with the Mono, North Fork Rancheria to find where the constraints are ahead of time. I think that's going to be a very important part of this, and then to give that permanent permanent easement for them to be able to use, I think is important. So I appreciate us looking at that on the up front. So a couple of the other questions I have, what would our carrying costs be associated with this project before we build any trails or do any improvements? So when we get it taken over, we get our lump sum payment, how much is it going to cost for us to just hold the land until we're ready to do an actual project on there?
PG&E is currently spending $16,000 a year on land management, as is. About $7,000, I believe, of that is for fuel reduction. So we could anticipate the same without any improvements, just for basic land management. Probably slightly less, because I believe that's over the entire 400 acres, not just the 200 acres that they're donating to the county. Right. So it should be a smaller sum than that, but we'd anticipate worst case scenario would be similar to what PG&E pays to maintain the property now.
And I would imagine PG&E has crews that do that. They probably have a pretty extensive land management arm of their. Who would do that for us? Because I don't think we have it in our budget currently.
Correct. We would need to contract that out. I know that there are partnerships out there with the Corsco Resource Conservation District and Yosemite Sequoia RC&D. We would find partners to help us maintain any trails and then do the brushing that's needed out there. There are brushing dollars in our grant application for the enhancement money, so we would use that to contract that service out to prepare the property. The California Conservation Corps, I learned, has crews that can assist us with brushing as well as trail maintenance. And then there's grant funding for those services as well. So there are a lot of opportunities out there to help us, so it's not a general fund impact.
Yeah, the problem is, sometimes when we're looking to grants to take care of ongoing costs, I usually like to see grants be used for one-time capital expense, but then we have to know that we have ongoing monies to do that. Do we have that? Or
I mean, the only other source of ongoing revenue would be the park development impact fees. And I'd have to check with Joel exactly on what's available.
And that would have to be divided amongst quite a lot of park acreage, so it would be a pretty small amount.
Yeah. And then what do you, this is my last question, Chairman. Have you done a study of what we think that campers' fees and all that would be in terms of our ongoing, and are people able to camp in there now without the trails, and would we be able to charge them those fees now?
We haven't done an analysis on camping fees. That would be part of the planning process and the phasing of development over time.
I appreciated that word too.
I will tell you there are people camping in there now.
Right now.
And illegally. One of the things we wanted to make sure of with the negotiations with PG&E on what they're retaining is that the public has access to Willow Creek. We couldn't put any improvements in there, but that doesn't stop you from walking down and enjoying it.
Right.
But yeah, we definitely have to look at, again, I'm advocating go slow, and let's look at each component as we go to make sure that you're not getting in over your heads.
Thank you.
Many years ago when I used to work up there during the lunch hour, I'd take a little ride over to Manzanita Lake, and I see a lot of senior citizens fishing out there. Hopefully you won't have to charge to fish in that area once we take over that property.
Outside of you have to have your fishing license.
As long as they have fishing license. Yeah. Well, let's take it to the public. Any public comments?
Yes, good morning, Chairman and Supervisors. I'm Steve Schreier from the Stewardship Council, and it's been my pleasure to work with the staff on...
Mike, on your button. Push it. Make it green.
Right there.
There we go.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman and Supervisors. I'm Steve Schreier with the Stewardship Council, and it's been my pleasure to work with staff to bring this project before you so that we can actually get moving on it and get the donation process completed. It'll take some time, as Maria mentioned, and there's still quite a few complex documents to work through, but they've been doing a great job on it. This is a small project for us. It's about 200 acres out of a portfolio of 140,000 acres that PG&E is either transferring or putting conservation easements on. But it's really important because this one has the potential for the recreation facilities that the county is planning. So it's a very important project for us, and we're excited to work with you on it. As mentioned, the Sierra Foothill Conservancy will also be partnering and holding the conservation easement, so you'll have a long-term relationship with them, and they'll be assisting with some of the recreation management. And we're looking forward to the enhancement proposal as well. We will be making decisions on those in the next few months, and that will give you a good idea of what resources will be available from the Stewardship Council to help out. We do regret that it's not as much as what was previously budgeted, but we promised possibly, but we really looked at what our remaining funds were, and just to finish off the transactions was requiring still the majority of our budget. So what's left we're putting out there, and it is competitive, but we're seeing that this is one of the ones that's really focused on recreation, and we know our committee is very interested in that. We're here for any questions. Erin is also joined me. She's Deputy Director for Land Conservation, and glad to help with any questions.
Thank you.
I got one.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah. Thank you, Steve and Erin, both for coming down. I've been working on this over 15 years when I was the chairman of the Corsco Resource Conservation District, way back when this first was put in the Fresno B, that PG&E had to put these properties. And so I started, I took it to our board, and we voted to go try to get some of these. We actually went for all, I think, 7 or 9 parcels that were in the original deal that they were going to have to give up. But between us and them, and taking it out with FERC reasons and problems and places that was inaccessible, this is the last piece that's finally going to be maybe done. And working with them, they have changed hands, I think, about every 2 years, so that hasn't been a real easy job for us. And we've been promised and promoted and agreed to over so many different ones from different leaders they had there. So now to get to this point where we are, I just can't thank everybody for where we are, and it'll be such an enhancement for Madera County residents. So, and all of it, everybody comes around there too to visit. So the place is already used like mad along the creek there. I mean, it's just the ground is as smooth as this here from people going in there camping, fishing, partying, or whatever else they're doing. So anyway.
They party down there?
Just a little. I did never when I was a kid, though.
Okay.
Before I would imagine you're going to make a motion, I would just want, is there anywhere in here for direction to say to look at all ongoing funding mechanisms or some other way to fund the ongoing maintenance?
I think you can add that direction, and it wouldn't be a violation of the Brown Act.
Okay.
I move that we approve item 7E with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, and that we also keep in mind that we got to keep looking for ongoing maintenance costs.
Second that.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Steve, Aaron.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
7F, County Administration Department, Human Resources, Operations Division. Discussion and consideration of approval to adopt a resolution appointing Sarah Honeycutt as Madera County's Director of Child Support Services effective October 1, 2017.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Vicki West, Director, Child Support Services for a few more days. I just wanted to, I know you've all met Sarah, but I wanted to introduce you to her again and also to thank you for your consideration in appointing her. I think you will be very happy. She is eminently qualified and will do a wonderful job.
I appreciate the opportunity from you guys. Child support I'm dedicated to, so I appreciate this opportunity to make some changes and do better in our department.
Very good. I move to approve.
Second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Sorry, Chairman. Public comment.
I'm sorry.
Would your husband like to say no to it? Or?
Fred. Public comments? We'll bring it back to the board.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 3-0, one absent, one away.
Congratulations. Thank you. For
7G, County Administration Department, Human Resources Operations Division, Budget Reorganization. 1, discussion and consideration of approval to reclassify and reallocate the following employee from the position of Employee Benefits Technician 2 to the position of Personnel Technician 2, effective September 1, 2017, Tanya Kam. 2, discussion and consideration of approval to amend the classification plan by eliminating the classes of Employee Benefits Technician 1, 2.
Good morning to you, Adrienne Califf reporting. This is an action, these are the final 2 actions to eliminate the position of Employee Benefits Tech, which was an action that the board approved in the 17-18 budget, as well as to formally place Tanya Kam into the position of Personnel Tech. Thank you.
Second. First, let's take it out to the public. No comment from the public. We'll bring it back to the board for action.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, one absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
7H, County Council, County Administration Department. Discussion and direction to staff related to several disputes arising from the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding between the County of the Madera and the Picayune Rancheria of the Chichansi Indians.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Regina Garza, your county counsel, here to discuss the status of negotiations with the Picayune Rancheria of Chichansi Indians. I'll call them the tribal council here because the tribal council leads this group, and seek some direction. You have a team of county negotiators. It is the chairman and supervisor from District 5 at this time, Supervisor Tom Wheeler. You also have the CAO, myself, and several members of staff, key members of staff, the Sheriff's Department, the department head for the Community and Economic Development, fire personnel. So we have been a team for many years and have looked at the MOU that currently exists between the county and the tribal council to seek any adjustments that might be needed. The MOU that we currently have with the tribe was adopted by both parties in February of 2007, so it's been humming along for several years. And back in February or late November of 2015, this board took action, had a special board meeting because the tribe was reaching out. They needed fire and law enforcement services to be able to reopen the casino that had been shut down for some time. We were at that time taking that opportunity to negotiate any sort of amendments that might be needed to the MOU, which isn't uncommon, especially if you enter into something in 2007 and the needs and the impacts are different as time rolls along. At that time, the tribe, their immediate focus was on reopening, and this board understood that. The board approved an expedited amendment to the MOU, and all those terms and conditions have been satisfied, and so we're back to the original MOU. At that time, the parties agreed to come back to the table, that was November, and come back to the table in at least February after they'd had a few months of being reopened and hopefully back to a successful operation at the casino. The MOU requires the parties to give notice of the intent to modify the MOU in the fourth term of the 5 years. So the MOU is 5-year terms. On the fourth year of the 5-year chunk, the party has to submit by February 14th of that year a notice to the other side saying we want to continue to negotiate. Well, both parties did, and since that time, and the MOU remains in full force in effect during that time, but since that time we have negotiated several times, but really nothing substantive have come out of those meetings. Instead, what have come out of those meetings are some disputes over the terms of the MOU, and the tribal council now is saying we're not going to sit down and negotiate it until these disputes are resolved. Under the MOU, if the parties can't resolve those disputes on their own, the MOU calls for mediation using a mediator that is familiar with tribal Indian law, is what the MOU says, qualified mediator, and both parties have to agree to mediate. The termination provisions in the MOU are really silent. In speaking with the attorney that helped put together this MOU, I think the idea, and some members of this board might know this better than me, was that this is going to continue in perpetuity until the gaming operations cease to occur at the casino. And I think the idea is that really it can continue in perpetuity because everything's going to be fine between the parties, and the casino is going to continue to thrive for the people and for the patrons. There are two disputes that have come up under the MOU. One involves the administrative charges that are allowed for under the part that deals with fire services. The language here, and I'll read this out of the staff report, and the MOU is also online and available for the public. The tribe agrees to reimburse the county for all actual costs of fire protection staffing under the agreement incurred by the county, plus a 12% add-on for county general and administrative burden. So CAL FIRE charges the county anywhere between 12.5 and 12.8% as an administrative fee that they pass on to the county. It's in your budget. It's part of our contract. If we don't pay that with CAL FIRE, most likely they won't continue to provide the service. On top of that, the county adds, and that's all public records. It's never been anything that's been hidden by the county. On top of that, the county adds 12% for its own administrative burden to manage the CAL FIRE contract, as well as the MOU between the tribe and the county. That accounts for human resources, invoicing, I've got a few examples here, accounting, your attorney services, all of those types of things. While the tribal council is refusing to pay two administrative charges, they say the MOU only permits one, and they feel like they're paying two administrative charges for the same service, and then that they're not required to pay one from a third party, which in this case would be CAL FIRE. So since about February of 2016, the invoices have been paid. However, they've been backing out this 12%, and it equates to approximately $6,000 just on average a month that they back out of these invoices, which they've started to accumulate. So as of June 2017, this sum of administrative charges that we believe is owed to the county is about $104,628. Separate and apart from that, we feel that we are owed about $95,000 for some inconsistencies that happened in terms of payments dating back to 2016. And so it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but we need to be proactive and really address, I think, what the problem is before too much time goes on, and we just keep saying the same thing back and forth to each other in terms of the way that we interpret the MOU. The second dispute that has arisen out of the MOU deals with law enforcement services, and I again will just read this provision from the MOU. It says the tribe shall have the primary responsibility for law enforcement on the property subject to the MOU. It kind of defines what that property is. But assistance from the Madera Sheriff's Department may be required from time to time with respect to the apprehension and arrest of persons engaged in suspected criminal activity. What the tribe is asking, they're asking our negotiating team to do and the MSO to do, is to come in and enforce what they believe the MSO can, which is, it's the criminal side of the house. What is that called? Let me just get a different word. So the government complex is across the street from the casino. and their requests originate just related to the government complex, which is across the street from the casino. The tribe is asking MSO to go in and remove trespassers that they've declared to be trespassers based on their own tribal council resolution, and then also to go in and enforce penal code violations. That's it. Very simple. The criminal law in California. The penal code violations that they believe are occurring on that government complex related to theft of tribal vehicles. Now, MSO has been working very hard on that. I cannot share what's going on in their current investigation, but I can assure you, Board, I feel very confident that the MSO is not ignoring their requests or their claims, but when you have a vehicle that's registered to an entity really determining who is potentially stealing those versus not is not as clear as we might think. But I can just let you know that where MSO stands and the sheriff feels as though the tribal council can get a judicial writ of possession, maybe a restraining order or some other court order besides their resolution to give the county assurances that it won't be going into the government complex and really causing something that may result in the shutdown of the casino. We're thinking about the patrons, the residents as well, the people that work at the casino, and then also really protect us from unnecessary litigation if we move into the government complex. So this has really been a discussion over probably almost the last year to put it in perspective. So the next steps for our negotiating team, and we wanted to come before this board to let you know this, in June 2017, and attached to this board item was a letter signed by myself that said we wanted to get all of these negotiations wrapped up by the end of this month. Otherwise, we would come to the board and share with you that you might want to consider initiating termination of the MOU. The Tribal Council, on behalf through their attorney, responded in July of 2017 and said, essentially, we're not going to continue with these negotiations unless we resolve these issues. And so looking at the MOU, the next step to resolve these issues short of terminating the MOU would be to agree and seek their agreement to mediate these disputes. I'm available. I wish I had good news, but I'm available for any questions.
I think on the CAL FIRE one, the two, they're not paying a second fee. That's just the cost of what it costs to use CAL FIRE. They're going to need their own management and everything in place. They're going to, if there was a major fire up there, they're going to benefit from that too in terms of all of the overhead that CAL FIRE does in terms of their mobile operations. I don't know how they can see it any different way. That's what our cost is for CAL FIRE, and we have to pass that on to them. So that's a definite sticking point.
I agree with you, and I would just add, Supervisor Frazier, is that this has been paid since 2007.
Yeah.
And it's been something that we believe was justified and agreed to in the MOU.
Oh, it's absolutely justified. I can't see any way to not do that. So you had said something about, in terms of the termination of the MOU, that it was until there was a cessation of gaming. There was a cessation of gaming, right?
Our position that it was not. We still, during the time they were shut down, because it was not. There was still fire and sheriffs that were there to help while the casino was shut down. But the MOU, and we sought the clarification from the tribe at that time, so they paid for those services during that time. I think that's water under the bridge. It wasn't the true cessation in terms of just shutting down the casino.
Just the casino just going out of business. Yes. Okay, I wanted to get that clarification out there. And then, do they need to have an MOU in place to be able to operate?
Well, that's a little bit harder to answer, but I believe that they do need fire and law enforcement services to operate the casino. Yes, they themselves can create their own law enforcement police force if they want. And in the MOU, it contemplates that they might do that. And they also have the opportunity to contract out or create their own fire personnel.
Yeah, they could go to
Cal
Fire. They could go to CHP. There's other games in town. They don't need to use us. So we could stop sending those services. They just have to find them and provide them elsewhere, right?
Right, and that would take time.
Well, but that's up to them. I mean, that's not on us.
Correct.
So it wouldn't be us shutting down the casino. They would just have to find those services elsewhere, correct?
Correct.
So they can still operate with or without us with this MOU, providing them our services. So
I will add one more thing.
I think if we have to go that route, we're not the ones that are taking away people's jobs. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, I think that's important, and that's part of the open session item to make it very clear that the efforts that the county has put into coming to an agreement with the tribe. And I will say that under the law, the tribes don't need a contract with their local jurisdictions, the county. However, the current governor of the state of California has made a policy that they want local tribes to have agreements with their local jurisdictions. So under the current administration with the state, they would probably answer my question a little more strongly and say, yeah, you do need an agreement before you can negotiate an agreement with the state on their compact. But that's not due until, I always look to Tom or Supervisor Wheeler for when that's due for the Chichansi tribe. But technically, it's more of a policy decision by the governor.
Yeah, and I want to have an agreement. It's good practice to be working together towards an end. But I don't want to get painted into a corner where it looks like we're the ones that are shutting them down, and we wouldn't. There's other options that they could have. I want to move forward with this. I mean, we set up that first meeting. It was the day before Thanksgiving, and we're committed to helping them be successful, as well as North Fork. I think some of us are committed. Don't want to speak for everybody, but I just don't want this to get so out of control that it's looking like we're the ones shutting them down. I want to have an agreement. I appreciate all the work you guys have been doing. I know we're just kind of at a stalemate, but
I think everybody on the negotiating team feels that way.
Supervisor Wheeler? Yeah, thank you. It is a stalemate. And two things. The state's MOU with the tribe, I thought it was due 2018. When I was talking to one of their members, they thought it was 2020. I don't think it's that thing. I think it's 2018. But so they have to have a compact with the state redone, and they've been redoing them. They've got about, last time I was up there at the tribal committee meeting with the state, they had about 24 of them signed up already with the new compacts, and they're trying to do them early before they run out, like ours did. And so one of the things that the governor put in there is that every dollar that they make with the cities and the counties when they make the MOUs with them will be offset off of the ones what the state's charging them. So if they make a deal with us to give us $1 million a year for whatever reasonings, it'll come off of the compact that the state's making with them. And they've been doing that. And I actually gave them a copy of one of the compacts that they've done. I had Mr. whatever his name, what's the guy's name, the governor's new guy?
Joe Dillon.
Joe Dillon. He actually sent me 2 of them, so they have one of them, so they could see how good they are. And and the compacts are a lot like the one that the Monos made with the county. And the last time we talked to Chichansi, they said, "Well, you guys want the same thing that the Monos gave." And I said, "Yeah, it's a part of doing business in Madera County. You're not exempt from it. All these things cost any other business that same kind of dollars." And that's all we've been asking for. We have nothing extraordinary, I don't think. And that was one other thought I was thinking when Brett said that. Now When we all agreed to let them, to sign the compact, to let them open, we worked for 3 months, almost weekly, staff, lawyers and everything, their lawyers, to get the new MOU done then, so we wouldn't have to be where we are today. And the day before, 5 o'clock the day before we was going to have our meeting to do that, they pulled it out. They pulled the rug out from underneath us. They said, no, we're going to go back to the original 207 compact, and we'll have it. And they knew that it was going to run out in February 2017, that they promised us by April of that next year they'd start negotiating with us, so we'd have it all done by this last February. And we started, but real late, because they would never respond to our request to have those meetings. And then when we did start meeting, this is where we are right now, like Regina said. So we have really, I think, stuck our necks out, our hands out to do this, and to come up after paying all these years on that 12 whatever percent it might be from CAL FIRE. It's been there from day one. It hasn't changed. And saying we're double dipping is just totally ridiculous, and that's just a poor excuse, I think, to not sit down and meet with us.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, just to clarify, the administrative charges, it would appear that they were paying 24 to 25% administrative charges. Am I correct?
No.
Well, CAL FIRE's, I believe this year for the 17-18 budget is 12.5% that CAL FIRE adds plus all their staffing. We directly pass on, yes, that percentage because it's the actual cost of fire protection staffing. And we also, what I found, CAL FIRE's part, and then a 12% add-on for everything that the county does once to administer those invoices. And that.
So I'm correct in stating that their administrative costs for fire services are 24 to 25%?
Well, just for fire. Now, keep in mind that the 12% is just for the fire. The county's 12% is overarching, so it's a separate over and above. It's to do all the things that are required in administering all components.
So
drill down.
So that can't be singly put toward the thought that they're paying 25% for fire.
Well, I think that's how they're calculating it. I mean, they'll look at the invoice and it's 12.5% and then 12%. So yes, I mean.
So they're equating all that to fire.
And they get it all in one invoice. It's the MSO's
maybe
administrative charges
separately in a different light if it's being construed as one fee.
The CAL FIRE's percentage is not lined item. It's just it says fire staffing charges, and it's put into it, and then it says county's administrative 12%. But if you look at the backup documents, then it shows our contract with CAL FIRE with the percentages, and it's ranged over the years from 12.5 to 12.8. But
I could see how they would construe, though, that they're paying a 25% fee for fire services if that's what the bill. If the bill is, arrives and it says fire services, county part, blah, 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 it kind of appears that I can see how they construe that.
Right. Supervisor, just to clarify, Joel Begay, County Administration. So when the invoice is sent to the casino, to the tribe, so there's a CAL FIRE detail that's provided to us. These are your direct staff that provide that service, and this is 12% overhead for those staff. That overhead is state overhead, state personnel, state contracting, also a portion of the command structure of CAL FIRE. So like, for example, David Allen is not a line item, so he's part of that 12% because he oversees that operation. So that is the CAL FIRE contract. On top of that, there's a county invoice that takes those costs and then applies the 12% county overhead to pay for our contracting, to pay for our admin, and for all of our overhead. So it's in separate areas, yeah.
Wait a minute. Dave's got the floor. Yeah. So how is that connoted on the invoice? I mean, is it one invoice or a separate invoice or?
So there's one county invoice, but the CAL FIRE cost, including the CAL FIRE administrative charge, is in the county invoice. It's a direct charge from CAL FIRE. Right. So you have direct charges CAL FIRE contract, which already has the 12.5%. And then we apply the county overhead, which is 12%.
And that is for fire alone or for?
That's for fire. For fire alone.
So they are paying 24 point whatever percent.
Right, but they're paying
part
for
of it is
different.
state administration,
Right.
and then part of that is county
Right.
administration.
They're not paying for the same admin twice. That's
Right.
the,
I
it's a matter-
understand that.
yeah.
I understand that. So, I understand.
They charge us that, see.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand their angst.
Yes, that's the argument.
Yeah.
Supervisor Frazier?
Actually, I'll just ask a question. How much are they paying for their CAL FIRE services annually?
You mean monthly?
Yeah.
Annually, yeah.
Sorry.
Matt's coming right now.
Yeah.
Matt, how much do you know? Okay, what is it?
So for the 17 agent recommended, we are estimating $807,000 for the CAL FIRE agreement pertaining to the casino.
So they're paying roughly $96,840 in overhead to CAL FIRE, which is money that we have to pay to CAL FIRE because that's the cost of doing business. If we were contracting with a Joe Blow fire service, there's going to be overhead that is getting passed on through that. We have, even if it was coming from us, there's administration that we pay into everything, plus then the administration of the actual MOU. Right. So, that's going to be no matter what.
And it's the state and both the county and the state are bound by the indirect cost rate plan, which is our method of allocating the overhead cost. So the same way they have to allocate their 12.5%, which recovers real cost, we have to recover by.
That's a real cost.
Yeah, we have to recover at admin cost. So,
it's an actual cost that we would have to pay, and we can't. That would be a gift of public funds.
Right.
If we would back out that $96,000, because that would be a cost that the general fund would have to pick up, because that's not going away, right, CAL FIRE? Right? That you're going to bill us no matter what. Someone's got to pay it.
Right.
So the people that are utilizing those services are and through the MOU would have to pay that. I don't even know why we have to argue this. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Regina, question for you. Our argument, we're trying to justify our costs, which are legitimate. You have the tribe there that they don't want any compacts with the county. That's clear. Now they have to have fire protection. They have to have security, because it's too expensive for them to provide that for themselves. It's too expensive. They're telling us they don't want a compact with us. Now, we're looking at our figures, see if they're justified. Well, they are justified. Let's go forward. What's our next step? Are we going to confront them and say, look, you have to have it, otherwise we just pull out, put fire and security out, and then we'll close them down? Is that what we want to do?
Well, Chairman, that's certainly an option. And before doing that...
Well, no, wait a minute. There's a lot of options here, but we keep backtracking and giving him the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes you have to play hard nose, and you have to do something about this situation. They've been screwing us around, canceling meetings, and not being truthful with us. What's our next step, fellas? What are we going to do?
Well, my recommendation is to suggest arbitration prior to terminating. Just looking at the MOU, because it's so silent on termination, I want to take the most cautious, and that will always be my approach, gentlemen, most cautious approach prior to terminating the MOU, and then to also think about the county's budget, because I have here just the portions of the budget you recently approved that a majority comes straight from this MOU. So I think it's a tough situation. We have felt like we have opened up your hands and created emergency meetings and done everything for the people of the tribe and the casino and the patrons and the residents, but it's been a while, and it'll keep continuing. And so I think there's tough decisions in front of you, and I think the first step is to see if they're willing to arbitrate these issues, because to me, you're right, Supervisor Frazier, they should not even be arguing about them. I think they're stall tactics, but they are impacting the county, and it's a financial burden to the county to continue to let this number grow.
I think you're right, because arbitration is our next step. We have to do that. It's almost mandatory, because the next step after arbitration is what? A lawsuit?
That's an option, but I don't want to discuss initiating litigation unless we're in closed session. But I think that any judge would say, why didn't you arbitrate? The MOU allows you to go to litigation only if it's time sensitive and it's not the nature, like the issues aren't of the nature that mediation would work. But that's a discussion to initiate litigation for closed session. But yes, this is the next
arbitration.
The next
Supervisor Frazier?
I think that's good.
Okay, Supervisor Wheeler?
It was
Dave Rogers, not me.
That's okay.
I didn't have to hear it.
Yeah, no worries. I was thinking about their request on the law enforcement provisions, and I don't see where we even have the option of negotiating on that, because that's really not us. That's the Sheriff's Department. We can't negotiate for the Sheriff's Department and say, you will do this or we'll do that. I just don't think that's in our purview.
You're right, but the sheriff has been sitting with our negotiating team, has been a part of this, because they've also sent, and I think that it is the county's liability ultimately, but the sheriff is the driver on that point.
Yeah.
And so this is not.
I think so. I also want to say I think it's unfortunate that we've degenerated over the last 2 years from where we were. I thought we were in a pretty good position together and trying to help them to move forward. And I don't know what stimulated this regression to former positions of posture and concern, because I thought we were in pretty good shape. And so it'd be nice to come together and talk about this issue. Maybe it's a misunderstanding of terms, perhaps, and reason concerning things that we can't avoid, because again, these administrative charges are something that if we don't charge them, we're gifting public funds. We can't do that. It's illegal. If I understand the law on this correctly, and so it kind of puts us in a position of ending the arrangement rather than going forward if that's the demand. So I want to work with them. I want to see a better relationship with the tribe, but maybe we need to sit down and go to arbitration and have someone else describe these terms and what the responsibility of the county is.
Yeah.
Well, what Dave is asking is why the change of attitude as far as the tribe? Well, you have new members on that tribe council. They have new members. We saw that.
Right.
We saw that at one of our meetings. You have new members. They want to withdraw. They don't think a compact is necessary. This is their attitude.
Unfortunately, you're right, and unfortunately, the problem is that we've been down this road before. I mean, I see the same thing happening that was happening previous to our coming together finally with a new group and settling this issue, and it degenerated to the point where they lost their ability to perform as an institution. We just don't want that for them. We don't want that for them and for the 1,000 jobs that they represent. And they need to understand. They need to take a second look at this attitude that they're all of a sudden. I don't understand this because it comes out of the blue.
Yeah.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, it's just a new council. They had different ideas, just like we do when we get new people here.
Right.
The only question I had is, Eric, do they charge, the CAL FIRE charge us 12%?
Yes, sir.
On our own contract?
Yes, sir. It's the exact
I think
same
that's
percentage.
a very important point when we talked to them. I don't know if we did. I remember
talking to him about that, but I couldn't remember if we got
I
charged
think
to.
also a history of other
Okay.
counties, too, might be in order to
Yeah.
work with CAL FIRE.
You know what, let's open it up to, go ahead.
I'll just clarify the CAOs. It's 12.5%, so it's different percentages, 12.5 from CAL FIRE,
Okay.
and it was in our budget documents, and then the counties is 12%.
Right.
Let's open it up to the public. I think we have some members out there that want to speak.
I'm Clyde Wheeler. I'm 32044 Delaware Road. And you're actually, when you're talking about fire protection, you're also talking about the fire protection for the Indian Lakes Estates area as well. So I would highly suggest that you negotiate with them, and if you need, whatever you need to do to shake them up so that they'll come around and negotiate in good faith. Mm-hmm. That kind of sounds like what we're dealing with here is the good faith. So anyway, that's all I have to say at the moment.
Thank you, Clyde.
Thank you for that.
Morning, Gary.
Good morning, Board. Gary Gilbert. Couple issues. One is your MOU with the tribe and the administrative charge. That was in the original 2001 MOU. It's not new. It's been there all along. The tribe has had numerous opportunities to raise that issue with you throughout their negotiations, renewing the MOUs from 2001, 2006, 7, and the latest. Administrative charge is price of doing business. I believe the tribe administers $1 million grant the county gives the tribe for money. I believe they also charge administrative charge on that. They were funding Acorn right off the top. That was one of their favorite little charities.
Right.
Plus their administrative charge. So I don't know what their administrative charge on your $1 million, but I bet you it was 10%. Plus little Acorn. So
Acorn was $250.
don't forget that one. But I think you got a couple issues here that you got to deal with and separate. One is the MOU, and they're tying that to the tribal land across the street. The MOU covers reservation land as defined in your MOU. Under the federal purpose, what you're doing on federal reservation land. Now the question on the land across the street, if you would look at the fee status of the deed of that land, some people will tell you that land's in trust. Look at the deed, get a copy of the deed, and the deed will tell you, I believe, that the land is owned by Picayune Rancheria. It's a quick claim deed, and that is not in reservation status. It is not in trust status. If they're trying to tell you that it's restricted, no more than my deed on my property. If they're trying to tell you that it's in trust, there's a process and part of the government, federal government, to put land in trust. There's a process they have to follow that you're involved with when land goes into trust. Look for the documents where that land was entered into the public record and the notice at the federal government that ranch, that land went into trust. If you got that document and it shows that land is in trust, then that's a different issue. But if it is in claim D, then the sheriff, under Public Law 280 and some other issues, can take a different issue. But these two issues are separate. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something, Tom?
No, that's it.
Chairman, members of the board, that issue has been researched by three different attorneys, and so it's not a part of today's presentation because we believe it's in trust properly. However, it doesn't mean we won't continue to look more deeply into that. We had a meeting with the assessor, the treasurer tax collector, and our attorneys, but we did look into that, so it's a good issue spot.
Good. So what kind of recommendation are you recommending?
Arbitration.
I'm recommending mediation under the MOU and a letter from me seeking their agreement. The MOU, the way it's drafted, it looks like both parties need to agree to mediation for it to occur, and we would also have to agree on a mediator. So there's a little bit of work to get there, but once we go through that, we will bring back an update to this board.
All right. You want a motion to give you direction in that, or just give you direction?
I have your direction.
Okay. Thumbs up. We'll do it.
All right. Thank you.
Seven I, Treasurer Tax Collector Department. Consideration of entering into an agreement with Airbnb for a voluntary collection and remittance of transient occupancy taxes at a rate of 9% and tourism business improvement district assessment at a rate of 2% in the unincorporated areas of Madera County effective October 1, 2017.
Yay.
Yay, good job.
How about that, huh?
You do it?
Anyway, yeah, so as soon as I, told them who I was, they said, oh,
God, it's Tracy Kennedy. Of course we're going to do this.
but that they were sorry. Anyway,
Good
so
job.
now we had to come back to you in order to approve the agreement to include the 2%. San Luis Obispo County also got them to collect their T-bid, which was good. So hopefully we can have it approved and send it to them.
Who got it first? Did we get it or San Luis?
They got it first.
Dang. I wanted them to have to thank us at CSAC.
Motion to move.
Second on the moving motion.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers? Yes. Supervisor Rodriguez?
See if there's any public comment.
Public comment on this issue? Bring it back.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers? Yes. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0, one absent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Girls. Ladies, that's better.
7J, 7J, Board of Directors, Special Districts, Public Works Department, Municipal Services Division. Discussion and direction to staff regarding possible privatization of all county-maintained water and sewer districts.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ahmad Al-Kayat, Public Works Director.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes. Rhonda is distributing a map of all our water and sewer districts.
Is it a 42?
Yeah, as your board knows, the county is currently in talks with a couple of water companies for possible privatization. Can you hear me now? Yes, as your board knows, the county is currently in talks with a couple of water companies for possible privatization of CSA 19, which is the Rolling Hills water system. Recently, there were inquiries from other private utilities about the water and sewer systems that the county has. We are here today to seek direction from your board on the possibility of the privatization of all water and sewer districts in Madera County. It is understood that any decision to privatize will occur in the future and will also require that we meet and confer with the impacted labor organizations. Currently, the county operates and maintains 30 water and 15 sewer districts. So I'd like to briefly touch on the good and the bad for such a option. So the good. It is harder for the county to implement a fair operations and maintenance rate because of Prop 218 constraints. 2, a private company may be able to consolidate all the systems in one, even though they are separated geographically. 3, private companies may be able to build capital improvements at a cheaper rate than we do due to the prevailing wages. Now the bad. There may be some debt that needs to be paid first by the districts before they can be taken on by private companies. And then number 2 is, how are we going to handle the amazing staff that serves these districts? Our limitations as far as staff is not incompetent staff. We have the most knowledgeable, qualified, and competent staff to maintain and operate these districts. The limitations seem to be previous county direction to previous management not to incorporate rate increases when presented the aging infrastructure problems to them. The limitations is the passing of Proposition 218 in 1996 that made it harder to implement a rate increase. The limitation is the ever-changing and more restrictive state regulations for drinking water and clean water. I would like to end by clarifying that today's department under this administration, for the first time, has taken an aggressive approach to raise rates and improve system deficiencies to meet today's regulatory standards. And I'm here for your questions.
Supervisor Frazier? Yeah, I'm going to echo your comments. I think you captured the good and the bad very well. Having worked on CSA 19 that's looking at the privatization right now, and going out and talking with staff, with multiple different outside companies, I know that I can stand in front of everybody in the rolling hills and say that you absolutely have the best staff working on it right now. Our staff, they either knew an answer to every question that these outside companies asked. When the outside company said, "Did you try this test?" they always said yes. They had done everything perfectly. There was problems with that. There's problems, out there just with the sand. Those aren't going to go away with a private company versus versus the county. So what it really boils down to is the structure by which the county gets paid and the structure by which the private company gets paid. The private companies under the PUC, they actually make their money like PG&E does through investment in infrastructure. Right? PG&E, although their rates seem high, the reason the rates are high is because they've invested in the infrastructure to be able to bring clean energy and reliable energy to your house. So that's the way that they do this in the PUC private companies, is the more they invest in these systems, then that's where they are able to get their money from. Is that correct?
That is correct, Supervisor.
So I think looking at, this board has already approved doing these rate studies to move forward with our own infrastructure replacement and capital improvement projects that will come with that. CSA 19s came out at the same time that we were looking at this privatization. Our assessment was the same in terms of the needs analysis for it. Now it's how to get how to pay that, right? One of the things that I've found on that one is that there's a trust factor there that's lacking right now. People think that the county has
some people.
Yeah. But I mean, in this case, in CSA 19s, it's an overwhelming. I mean, there was of the 150 people that were there, 100% of them said they wanted to privatize. Not one said no.
No kidding.
Wow. And it's because there is a lack of trust. We had said that this well would serve them for 20 years. It ended up being 3. It cost a lot of money. We ended up having to bond. It sits there on their tax rolls for 30 years. It's a cloud on the title when you're trying to sell. And just what a normal meter costs a lot more because it's spread out over 30 years. So we have a different method by which we can actually put that money in, and it ends up seeming to cost a lot more. So then we haven't kept up with those rate increases over time. So it looks like it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So. But I think since we've already are going down the engineer assessment for all of the districts, we need to start going down this path as well to have options for what happens if when the engineer's estimate comes back and it's going to raise people's rates by 100 to 150% sometimes. What is the method by which, because we can't continue from the general fund paying for these districts, right? So we need to know, we need to have some method to divest the areas that won't pass the 218 election, that they have to either find somewhere else to go because we can't continue to keep doing the service. We also have to find a place for those that don't think that even if they gave us more money that we would do with it what we said we were going to do. I'm confident that we're doing the right things.
We are.
But there needs to be those options, and I think we're actually taking a very proactive approach, this board. I don't think that in the past it was handled this way. I want to commend you for saying absolutely, and I'll say this right now. The first thing that was out of Ahmad's mouth when it was, where do the employees? What about them? And so I think making sure that they're taken care of, or is it legal, Regina, if we give me a look? But if we ask a company to hire or do a hire preference for our employees?
Yes, my understanding that's legal and kind.
Yeah. So I think it's important to look at what this means to those that have worked so hard. Like I said, talking to the guys in Rolling Hills, you would have thought that they lived there and that it was their own water system the way they talked about it. And so we want to make sure that they're taken care of if we do go this. Now, this is a long process, right? How long do you think it would be?
Well, thank you for the kind words. And everything you said is true and accurate. Also, just to clarify, we are not, this is an additional option how to deal with our districts. So this is an addition of, it's just an authorization to talk and evaluate that option. We are still going full force with the rate studies and assessing every district and properly.
Right?
Correct, and Prop 218 when needed. We've already done a few. Almost every month you will have in front of you a Prop 218 and a hearing. So this is a lengthy process, I would assume, Supervisor Frazier. I mean, not shy maybe of a few years. But meanwhile, we're business as usual.
Yeah. Just because we're going down this path doesn't mean we have to just run them concurrently, I think.
Correct.
Okay. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah. Ahmad, LAFCO has done 3 studies, I think, now in consolidations. Oakhurst, of course, going down here, Rolling Hills and all them. But what we haven't done is try to consolidate the whole county, all 42 districts, water districts, and the 15 sewer districts together.
Supervisor, we do have geographical limitations, but consolidation, we are actively pursuing a few. We have.
Well, I know a few,
done-
but I'm talking about, like if we privatize it, we're talking about doing every one of them, right?
Correct. Well, just look at the whole. Any option there is out there, we would like to investigate and find a solution. Whether it's giving them all to different companies or one company, and this is basically whatever we can discuss and come up with that is within our power.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. One of the suggestions that I would want to make is that if we were going to solicit proposals, I think we should probably solicit proposals for taking all the systems in their entirety, because I think what would happen, and if I was a water company, I would want to go in and cherry pick the good ones.
Right.
No, they'd have to be every one of them.
Right.
No.
So I just wanted to offer up that as a recommendation.
Right.
So if we do put our feelers out, I think there's at least 2 or 3 companies that are interested, and so we just want to make that suggestion.
And sorry, I just want to make sure, because I think that's the best way to do it too. We're obviously going down the path with the CSA 19. If there was somebody that was chosen for that one, but then didn't ultimately win the whole, would there be able to? Is there a way to carve that out so that? I'm sorry, that just came up in my.
Can you repeat the question?
So the question is, okay, let's say CSA 19 has Company A is selected for theirs. We go down this path, and Company B is the ultimate winner of the contracts in Madera County. Could Company A still serve CSA 19?
That's probably driven by the sales agreement completely, and new negotiations to either leave it alone or consolidate.
So there's mechanisms by which to do that.
Yes, because it's simply a sales agreement. Not simply, it'd be a sales agreement, and those terms and modifications are usually allowed by either party.
And then if a district wanted to opt out and not go under, but the county was no longer in the special districts, would they?
I don't believe this sort of sale would be subject to a Prop 218 for the residents.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other? Open up to the public. Come on, Gary, get up here. Is it turned on?
Mic on.
Yeah. On again. I know your board has visited this in the past, 4 or 5 years ago, and had quite a discussion on it. And I'd like to add a couple comments to your director. Is the staff you have out here are outstanding. They are doing a heck of a job. They're a pleasure to work with. We're in Maintenance District 58, 26 users. And we've pushed our own sales. We've doubled our rate from $60 to $120. We're more than happy with what the county is providing. I appreciate his comment about meet and confer with employees, because under negotiations that would be on the table for if you contracted it out. But at the same time, I think you owe the users, like myself and my neighbors, to meet and confer with us also. Just as a courtesy. Because I am happy with the system and my neighbors are happy with it. There's other options than privatize, but if that's the path you're on, I understand why Rolling Hills would go that way and some of the bigger ones. But at the same time, there's a little thing for small districts like ours, 26 hookups. We're more than happy, but we can also create a municipal water district, or you could turn it over to us and let us run our own system. There's other options other than privatize it. We are the owners of it. We're the ones paid for the infrastructure. Right. We continue to maintain it. We need a voice at the table also. And I'd like to, throw out, besides privatize, is we could contract back with the county or Hillview. But let the local people, local control, right at the base root, run it. So, thank you very much.
I agree that that's why I'd asked about that opting out or a different option along with that. Me personally, with CSA 19, they've voted on it one time at the meeting. I'm going back on Thursday just to take the temperature again, just to make sure that that's still where everybody wants to go.
I'm going to throw out one caveat because I have said in your chair before, under CEQA, I believe this would be a project, and you may want to look at that. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Gary. Come on up.
Press a button here.
Is it still green?
Oh, it's still on. Okay. My name is Celeste Wheeler, and I live in Coarsegold. I live in Indian Lakes. And actually, we're in the middle, we're right in the throes of a 218 vote, which will be either for or against on October the 10th.
Right.
Anyway, I've only been here, we've only lived here about 2 years, and so I can't speak like the gentleman over there who's been around for a long time and all that sort of stuff. I don't know how everybody else in our area feels about it. But the one thing I wanted to say in talking with Ahmad is that one of the questions that I wrote down here on the agenda is this your call to make as a board? What does your constitution say for the county of Madera about the services that you provide to the people who live here? I know there's fire, there's police. Is water one of those? No, it's not. Oh, it's not.
There's a lot of counties that don't do this. Have
really?
Districts, right?
So why do you guys do that? Why do you guys?
Because the previous boards did it years ago. Even before Gary ever come up.
Okay.
Years and years and years ago. We have the most of these than any other county in the state.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I've been researching is Proposition 1. And because we are, one of the things I discovered, and I mentioned this at the meeting that we had, is that we are considered a deprived community or whatever it is according to the state of California, which means we can qualify. We do qualify for Proposition 1.
Right.
Monies under certain provisions of Proposition 1 as far as water safety, that sort of thing. And when I spoke with Ahmad, he said, well, we have to show good faith that we are entering into a Proposition 218 vote, and that then the county then would apply for or do the grant writing for a proposal for Proposition 1 funds. If you turn it over to, private companies, who then does that for us?
I don't know.
The question is, who would set your rate?
No. Who
would get the grant?
Who would apply for the Proposition 1 or any other state propositions that come along
I guess
in the future?
the company would. Because Hillview Water has actually got a few million to do their upgrades from grants and stuff. I don't know if
they do. They have their own grant writers that do that sort of thing.
They got Prop 1 dollars because the State Water Board was there at their last ribbon cutting about 6 months ago. They got $6 million or something.
Yeah, as a private water company, it's in their best interest if the state has money. It's less money that they have to put out for those things. So they'd be writing those.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of because I'm a newcomer. There's a lot of things about this county I don't know. But
one of the provisions of the grants from the state usually is that the districts are solvent, that they have their bills paid, and many of the districts don't. They owe money.
One of the things Ahmad said, and I wanted to check this out too, he said that the county is mandated by the state of California to provide us with water. Is that correct?
Safe drinking.
Correct. Celeste, yes, we are by the state. We follow the state regulations as far as safe drinking water rules and regulations and testing the water.
If we're not, as the county, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not mandated by the state to provide everybody in the county with safe drinking water. Right. But when we run a special district, that we're managing for the residents within that special district, we are mandated to provide safe drinking water to those residents within that district.
For all our systems.
For all our systems.
Our systems.
So then if there was a company, then they would also be mandated by the state of
Absolutely,
California to do the same thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's primarily what I...
That's the reason Hillview got that money, because their water has been bad for years, and they qualified because they couldn't meet that. So
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your questions.
One thing I'd like to just clarify to Ms. Celeste here, they are far ahead in their application process. We're going to do the Prop 218. So probably by the time everything is substantiated, they will already have a good system. So they're far ahead in the game.
And like Dave said,
and they are a very well involved community, and I thank you for that.
Like Dave said a while ago, if you don't qualify for $1, even for loans or grants, if you cannot sustain your paying your own bills and your upkeep right now.
Your maintenance and operations costs, yes, sir.
They're not even going to talk to you. So you've got to get that in place first, and that's what we've been doing. So
yes, sir.
It's been pretty aggressive on that. It's taken us years to get to this point to get that aggressive, because it's kind of sit on the
That's what a lot of these maintenance districts don't realize, too, that they're really self-defeating. What they're doing by not voting these 218s in through recommendation is that they're hastening the end.
That's right. Because they will come in and fine you. Okay. I think we got a thumbs up to move forward on this. There's no vote. So see what you can come up and bring it back so we can get the public involved and see what we can come up with.
Thank you. I have my direction. Thank you, Supervisor.
Any pending legislation? Any supervisor or staff reports? Dave? Eric? Regina?
Nothing. No. Staff report.
We got to go back closed session then, right?
Correct.
Okay, let's go finish it.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I got a lot. Yeah, I'm just going to have her give a report when she gets done.
Okay. All right, thank
you. Any reportable actions?
Chairman, Vice Chairman. There are no reportable actions. However, I would like to say for the public record, item 2I, Public Employee Performance Evaluation of the Veteran Service Officer is going to be pushed to the next meeting. It was not discussed today at all by the board.
Thank you. Motion adjourned.
So moved. Done. Thank you, guys.
Bye.